Behind the ivy-covered gates of one of Britain's most exclusive royal estates, a quiet storm has been brewing for years. Royal Lodge, once a symbol of privilege, power, and polished image, has now become the backdrop to one of the monarchy's most uncomfortable scandals. Inside its grand walls, whispers of strict rules, explosive tempers, and obsessive routines have long circulated among those who served there. But now, with King Charles stripping his younger brother of all remaining titles and honors, those whispers have turned into headlines. Prince Andrew, or rather Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor, is being forced to leave the home he's clung to for decades. And with his fall from grace comes a flood of stories painting a very different picture from the man once called His Royal Highness. So what really happened behind the walls of Royal Lodge? How did the once favored son of the late Queen end up fighting to keep a home built on privilege and surrounded by scandal? The answers lie not just in royal tradition, but in the strange, secretive life that unfolded within the estate itself, a world of control, fear, and faded grandeur.
It all began with a deal that raised eyebrows across Britain, a lease that, on paper, looked almost too good to be true. Back in 2003, Prince Andrew secured a 75-year lease on Royal Lodge, a sprawling estate in Windsor Great Park, once home to the Queen Mother. The arrangement was simple: pay a one-time fee, invest millions in renovations, and in return, enjoy the mansion for life, with barely any rent. A symbolic sum, sometimes called a peppercorn payment. For years, that deal sat quietly in royal records, rarely discussed outside palace walls. But as Andrew's reputation crumbled, it resurfaced, suddenly becoming a symbol of royal privilege at its most excessive. The public began to ask, why should a man stripped of duties and titles still live in one of the Crown's grandest homes? According to royal insiders, the lease itself was airtight. As long as Andrew kept up the maintenance and repairs, he couldn't be legally evicted. In other words, even the king's will alone couldn't simply remove him, not without a fight. That legal detail turned a private family issue into a very public problem, one that made headlines and divided opinion about how much power the monarchy really has behind closed doors. Yet, beneath the legal language and property rights, Royal Lodge was never just a house. It was Andrew's fortress, a place he believed he'd never have to leave, no matter what storms hit his reputation. But while the outside world saw manicured gardens and quiet privilege, those who worked inside the estate described something very different. And that's where the story starts to twist. Because behind those gates, life under Andrew's rule was nothing like royal.
Step inside Royal Lodge and the grandeur quickly fades. Former staff members describe an atmosphere more like a pressure cooker than a palace, a place where one wrong move could set off a storm. Curtains had to hang at a perfect angle, breakfast trays aligned with military precision, and silence was expected at all times. Those who worked there say Prince Andrew demanded perfection to the point of obsession. A curtain drawn too tightly, a plate turned slightly off-center, even footsteps that came too early in the morning, all could spark an outburst. One maid said she learned to measure distance by instinct, never meeting his eyes, never speaking unless spoken to. It wasn't formality, it was fear. And then came the story that summed it all up: the teddy bears. According to multiple staff, Andrew owned over 70 stuffed toys, each dressed in sailor uniforms and lined up across his bed in an exact order. There was even a laminated diagram showing their correct positions, from largest to smallest, row by row. If a single bear was out of place, someone would pay for it. Some called it eccentric, others saw it as a glimpse into how controlling he could be. One former bard joked that the diagram looked more like a battlefield map than a bedtime routine. Yet to those inside, it was serious business. Every evening, the toys were carefully moved around the room again, arranged just as the diagram dictated, including a small group stacked neatly inside an unused fireplace. It wasn't optional, it was ritual. The staff say Royal Lodge ran less like a household and more like a command post. There were rules for how his clothes were folded, how shoes were lined up, and even how the morning tea was poured. Mistakes meant humiliation, and challenging him meant dismissal. Many insiders claimed they'd rather serve any other royal than endure the tension inside that house. For those who saw it firsthand, the lodge became a symbol of control, where wealth and authority created an environment no one dared question. And while outsiders laughed at the teddy bear tales, for the people living it, it was anything but funny. But if life inside Royal Lodge was tense, the royal titles that protected Andrew were about to crumble, and that's when everything changed. For years, Prince Andrew lived like his royal title made him untouchable. As the Queen's son and Duke of York, privilege shielded him from consequence. But when his ties to Jeffrey Epstein surfaced, that shield shattered. The public turned, and the monarchy went silent. In 2025, King Charles III made the break official. Andrew was stripped of every title, rank, and honor. He would no longer be His Royal Highness, just Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor. Overnight, his royal identity disappeared. The move wasn't just symbolic, it signaled that the monarchy was cutting him off completely. But even after losing everything, Andrew refused to leave Royal Lodge. Bound by his lease, he claimed the Crown Estate had no legal right to evict him, and for a time, he was right. Still, public opinion had already evicted him in spirit. The estate that once represented royal privilege now stood as a monument to downfall. And inside those walls, one person still remained, Sarah Ferguson, trying to hold together what was left of a broken royal household. While Andrew's temper ruled the lodge, Sarah Ferguson brought a different energy, one that changed over time. Early on, staff described her as warm and approachable, often chatting casually and breaking royal stiffness. But as her marriage fell apart and public scrutiny grew, that warmth started to fade. Insiders say her moods could swing fast, laughter one moment, frustration the next. Some staff remembered her as kind under pressure, others recalled shouting matches that left people in tears. Still, many agreed on one thing. When Andrew lost control, Sarah was often the only one who could calm him down. Even after their divorce, they stayed under the same roof, two ex-spouses sharing a mansion out of habit, loyalty, or perhaps fear of losing their last piece of royal life. She acted as a buffer between Andrew and the outside world, maintaining the illusion of stability while their reputation quietly unraveled. Now that Andrew's titles are gone and his lease revoked, that illusion is gone too. Sarah has sold her own home, believing she'd stay at Royal Lodge for good. Instead, she's been forced to leave, reportedly devastated to lose what she called her safe place. For nearly 2 decades, Royal Lodge tied their lives together, but with Andrew moving to a smaller estate and Sarah searching for somewhere new, that bond has finally broken. And as their story ends, the fallout stretches beyond the gates of Windsor, reaching their daughters and the royal family itself.
With Royal Lodge slipping from their grasp, the once inseparable family has quietly scattered. Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie have distanced themselves from the chaos, choosing privacy over palace life. Reports suggest Eugenie now spends most of her time in Portugal with her husband, while Beatrice divides her life between the US and Europe, far from the British tabloids. For them, the fall on their parents isn't just another headline. It's a reminder that royal blood no longer guarantees royal protection. The House of York, once held together by the Queen's quiet support, now feels fractured and adrift. As for Andrew, the titleless prince will live out his days in a smaller estate on the king's property, a symbolic downgrade that mirrors his new reality. The man who once stood near the throne now fights for relevance in a world that's moved on. Sarah Ferguson faces her own reckoning too, stripped of the comfort that Royal Lodge provided. For the first time in decades, she'll live entirely outside the royal bubble. In the end, the downfall of Royal Lodge isn't just about scandal or eviction. It's a reflection of what happens when privilege collides with accountability, when the walls of tradition can no longer protect those behind them. The story of Andrew and Sarah is no longer a royal romance or a tabloid sideshow. It's a warning that titles fade, power shifts, and even the grandest homes can become symbols of decline. Because behind the gold crests and guarded gates, the truth of royalty is simple. It's not the crown that keeps you safe. It's the choices you make when no one's watching.